I was regarded at Harvard Business School as being a communist.
Ken is fun, and Ken is a great friend to Barbie.
There's no empathy measure on most people's performance reviews. But if you don't have that, I think it's almost impossible to be an excellent marketer.
The brand manager is the general manager of the brand.
I was just this fat unit, you know what I mean, in a suit, and it was clear that I was not the same as the others.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of WFA's Better Marketing, and today for me is a very special day because my very special guest today is Michelle McEttrick, a very dear friend who I have known, here's a horrendous thought, Michelle, since 1993. When we first met, I was at the Coca-Cola company and Michelle was at McCann Erickson Seattle. Since then, she's had a stellar career, and actually just to focus on her last two gigs, the one she's in now is Chief Customer Officer of Primark, and we're going to come on and talk about Primark. Before that, she was 6 years the Group Brand Director at Tesco, and I think you'll be correct to credit yourself as key part of the turnaround team that put Tesco back on track. And before that, she had stellar roles in BBH, BBDO, etc. So a storied career, but much more important than that, a great friend. So Michelle, welcome. How wonderful to see you. How are you?
Thanks, David. I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. Pretty good. Thank you. Can we just talk briefly about your trajectory? And I guess one of the things it's lovely to start with is you and I have talked about this many a time. The experience you get on the agency side stands you in great stead on the client side. But as you reflect on that, which side has been more fun for you? I mean, obviously, you're going to say the best job you've ever had is the one you've got now.
That's actually true. And I think with maybe one exception, I think I've been able to say that of every current job. And I think that my limited insight to that question is that for agency side, client side, the work is really the same, but from a different perspective. And so I think for people thinking about which they might want to specialize in, I think it's really good to keep that in mind. And that also helps me always remember that it's very much a partnership. And from the client side, if you don't understand very clearly what the benefit to the agency of working on your brand is besides financial, then you're not going to get the best people working on it.
Brilliant. Crisply said. And I know you've always specialized in getting the best people, which in itself is a great skill. But I think probably worth just saying for our watchers, listeners, those who don't know Primark should, because it's now one of the world's biggest retailers, very much a bricks and mortar model, which is interesting in the current times, but across 17 countries, founded in Ireland back in 1969, and one of the fastest growing retail groups in the world. And I think I'm right in saying you are the first official marketeer that they've ever hired. So how's it been? I mean, you're 2 years in. How's it going? Enjoying yourself?
It's great. I'm really loving it. And you're right to plug Primark. It is very well known in Europe, a very well kept secret in the US, and unknown in other parts of the world. So it's been really fun. I think Primark has prided itself in 55 years in not spending money in marketing. So although there are fantastic marketeers in the business who've all used sort of an own channel and an organic approach to tremendous results. But yes, in terms of really thinking about stepping into more of an investment position in marketing, my role is the first.
And how has it been to kind of get stuck in? Because I know a key part was looking at the Primark brand and taking a deep breath and getting it fit for future purpose. I mean, how was that process? Most challenging part, etc.
Yeah, no, it was actually the easiest in doing that I've ever experienced. Um, you and I worked together in Barclays, and you'll recall that was a bit of a teeth pulling exercise and one step forward, and I won't even try and quantify how many steps back on the path. With Primark, because they'd never really put a brand strategy in place. I looked at it and thought, well, we definitely need some of the building blocks that you need: purpose and values and a strategic framework. And because there was nothing really written in stone, as there is in most businesses, we were free to really build it from scratch. And so I collaborated with and partnered with our director of strategy, and then our head of culture and leadership. And we did it together. So writing the brand strategy, the purpose of the business, codifying the values and behaviors, and then flowing that into a strategic framework for the business. Really, the work itself was not that difficult, because we all know that work is really what is true of the business. You don't need to go out and ask people who you are and what you stand for. You really need to find that inside. And then the onerous stakeholder management of trying to convince people it's something different than what they thought didn't exist.
Yeah. And as you expand, plans for Asia? Are you looking to move Primark to Asia as well?
We have recently announced that we are going to be opening in the Gulf Coast area. Okay. So that will be the next geographic territory that we're opening in. And we're scheduled, I just came off a call on that actually this morning, rapidly developing plans. So definitely watch this space. But I think that obviously the US, we have under 30 stores there, is a big growth opportunity for us. So when you think about geography, also think about the US.
And as I said in the intro, it's really a bricks and mortar business. And I know you've now got click and collect. But can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's counter most direction of travel, but it's working fabulously.
Yeah, we think of ourselves as in competition with your couch on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah. And so thinking about what would make somebody get off their couch and actually go into a physical store. And that's led to a lot of really interesting in-store experiences. So we have a lot of cafes, we have nail bars, we have vintage clothing concessions. We've got a lot of interesting things that pop up in the stores that can keep the whole family interested on that Saturday afternoon. And then the other thing is, we're really conscious that what pure play online businesses can't do is provide the inspiration, the outfit inspiration that we can through visual merchandising in store. And so we really spend a lot of time making sure that we have the absolute best in the business to build all of those inspirations for customers.
And as you've done this, I think you've also done it very smartly through partnerships, most recently with Rita Ora, but famously in the UK with Greggs. How do you approach partnerships, and how useful have they been in building the Primark brand?
Yeah, I think that plays into newness and always having something interesting in that store environment to make it worth the trip. So I think it's interesting because I'll tell you, the Rita Ora partnership was very organic. And Rita and our CEO, Paul Marchant, met by happenstance when he was in Los Angeles for meetings. And she approached him because her local store growing up was the Hammersmith Primark, and she's been a fan since she was a teenager and a refugee in this country. And so they got to talking, and we had been thinking about a more global influencing partner, and she just perfectly fit the bill, but mainly because she is such an authentic fan of the brand. And that is absolutely the one criterion that Primark insists on.
Fan of the brand.
Yeah.
Fabulous. And, back to, I love the notion of you're in competition with a couch on a Saturday afternoon. And having had the joy of being at one of your store openings in Madrid, I can see that you kind of drive experience and you use influencers heavily to do that. But I guess that then has me think about, how do you measure the success of that? I mean, how do you know, when you've got influencers like the ones we saw, how do you know they're delivering the goods? How are you checking in on, are you delivering the right experiences?
Yeah, I think we have what the usual measurement techniques for things like that. So you take a look at media value, and really, are you actually then selling through on a lot of the products that they're featuring? But I think that the macro measurement for that is the success that the organic social team at Primark has had in really authentically growing, over 20 million followers worldwide with no paid marketing behind it. So it's really, it's a cocktail that altogether is working.
And how do you secure a marketing budget? I mean, given that this business has been built fabulously, and as you just demonstrated, without needing to buy even paid for media to get a fan base.
Yeah, I think you mentioned we're in 17 countries, and the health of the brand is in varying stages in those countries. So in Germany, for instance, it's widely known that our parent company, Associated British Foods, needed to take impairment in the market a couple years ago. And so we're looking at that and did just a little bit of proposition research, as anyone would, taking a look at the situation. And basically, I just wrote down the most bare bones description of what the Primark proposition was and put it into test, and came back as suspected as highly appealing. And then we put the Primark brand on it, and that appeal reduced by an order of 6 times.
Oh, wow.
So it was clear that the offer, the proposition, the product, the price, the quality are all desirable to the German customer. And it was the brand that was the drag. And because the business had tried almost everything else, it was probably a slightly easier sell at that stage in time to take a flyer on increasing the brand health as a leading indicator for the turnaround of the business, which is actually, it's working really well. We launched that in March, and after the first 6 months, we've halved the gap to the competition on brand affinity and consideration.
Oh, fantastic.
So we've got a stubborn measure of quality perception, which is really tightly tied into low prices. But that's the next one that we're tackling. And then on the other side of that spectrum of brand health is the United States. And in Europe, people travel across countries the way Americans travel across states. And so it's rare to find a European traveler who hasn't come across a Primark in one shape or form or another. And that's not the case in the US. And so we've been in the US for about 10 years. And one of the things that I would say makes the US unique for Primark is the competitive landscape is significantly different. And Primark is actually a category of one. Okay. And so there's really no awareness of what Primark does. And so the task actually is a very simple awareness job. And we We've done our first campaign in the U.S. Launched in September. We did a 12-week proof of concept that we just came out of the market the day before the U.S. election, and tangent available, and we're in the middle of measuring that, but it's really an awareness job there.
Fantastic. Listen, what a huge tangent there is available, but we won't take it. We won't take it. But I guess that leads to, as you look at the difference in the customer base around the world, what is the US customer seems to me to be so different, and in a way, the category of one demonstrates that. If you look at the dominance of Walmart all over the US, how different is the US consumer for Primark?
Well, for Primark, the customers who are in our stores are people who happen to be in the malls or the locations that we have stores, because we have not built that brand awareness yet. And so you'll find the biggest characteristic that I would point out is because Primark has not stepped forward and really communicated our proposition to customers. What Primark is to individual pockets of customers is just what they've personally experienced.
Yeah.
So for parents of small kids, Primark is incredibly great value for their kids' every need. For a construction worker, Primark makes the absolute best basics in terms of your workwear, your undershirts, all the things that you need to replenish, socks, etc. And for younger women who really want to be a bit more fashionable, maybe than some of their friends, it's a great place to find value. So it is. I would say the brand, because of that customer experience, is quite fractured without the work that we're doing to really elevate the awareness of what we actually do.
But the brand was in good health. I mean, let's reflect a little bit on your Tesco time, and maybe let's start that with, what did you bring out of Tesco? What learning did you arrive with in Primark, and what surprised you that was different about Primark?
Yeah, so first of all, Tesco was my first job in retail. Obviously, from the client side or from the agency side, I had experienced retail brands, but there's nothing quite like being in the belly of a retail beast. And so for that, I would say I learned everything I know about retail at Tesco. And it was an amazing, amazing training ground. What does Primark do differently? What was I surprised by? Primark is more nimble than Tesco. And I think that comes from it's a younger business. It's been around for 55 years, but it hasn't had it hasn't been at scale for as long as Tesco has been at scale. And that's something that as a leadership team, we're really paying a lot of attention to. So how can you keep that entrepreneurial, nimble creativity that is the beating heart of Primark, and you bring in the right amount of process and repeatability in order to take it to greater scale?
Fantastic. And yeah. I know that your role also encompasses sustainability and ethics. And, when we were first talking about the role you'd taken on, one of the things that astonished me was the supply chain story, which is probably worth sharing with everybody. And also, if you could talk a little bit about Primark Cares and how you're thinking about sustainability more broadly at the moment.
Yeah, I guess the context is there are 8.2 billion people on the planet. And I think a lot of people, and in fact, most people would equate luxury or expensive clothing with quality and durability, but fewer than 1% of that population can afford that. And so if we don't have a scale solution, we're in big, big trouble. And I think that Primark recognized that, and Primark was actually founded intentionally by ABF Associated British Foods thinking about, we're doing a lot to feed the masses. Do we have a responsibility and opportunity to provide value clothing as well? And so if you take that and fast forward then to 2013, that's when Primark launched its the Primark Cotton Project, which is, I think, what you're talking about. It started by training smallholding cotton farmers in India. And it's now, after 11 years, trained over 300,000 of these cotton farmers on farming practices that use less water, include biodiversity, and are really great in terms of financial literacy and improvement of the lives of the farmers, 80% of whom are women. And I did, as you know, had the good fortune of going to visit a few of the villages shortly after I joined Primark, and it was an incredible experience. I remember on the way there thinking, oh, it's gonna be amazing. I'll hear some great stories, and how it's changed the lives and the makeup of the villages. And without exception, we rolled up to these villages, and these women farmers got up and gave the sharpest business presentations I think I've ever seen. It was basically like they could have been almost any CFO that I've worked with.
Fantastic. It seems to me this is a kind of light that you keep under the Primark bushel. I haven't really seen Primark publicly talk about this much. Is that intentional? I mean, do you have plans? I know you can find it when you look on the website, but you have to surf to find the story.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of those, the answer is something that's evolved. I think that Associated British Foods and Primark have often thought deeds over words. And again, without paid media, the activity you do, if you rely on the media to cover you, is only news once. Yep. So having an ongoing message and story about some of the things that you do is harder to achieve. And then I think the other thing is that in recent years, sustainability, ESG, responsible business practice is really more top of mind for consumers. And now we're in a situation that there's a ton of regulation around what you can and can't say responsibly about what you do.
Yeah.
And so it's catching a lot of brands up in greenwashing, and leading to a phenomenon that we call green hushing. So you see a lot of brands now really retreating from openly talking about what they're doing in that place, which is probably not a great result, because a lot of brands won't have taken on this kind of activity in the same way that Primark did in partnership with ABF, and will look at it and say, is it worth investing in if I can't get credit for it? And so could set us back.
So can we just focus a little bit on ABF, because I had intended to start like that, but we got straight into some other stuff.
Yeah.
Because from the outside, it's always looked a bit odd that ABF, the food business, should have a fashion business. But I think you've already kind of explained why. But maybe could you go a bit longer on that and talk about how that relationship works?
Yeah, it's a brilliant relationship. Primark is roughly half of ABF, and it is, from my perspective, it's the benefit of FTSE circa 30 business. So the governance and the board, really high quality leadership team and board there, and also the freedom of managing your business not in a quarter by quarter listed way.
Yeah. And
so I think that's been a very positive factor in Primark's growth. ABF is very pro Primark growing. They take a very long-term view. I think you can look at that in the history of most of the decisions that they've made. which works really well in combination with like I said, the nimble, flexible, creative culture that is Primark.
I read in Campaign recently that one of your biggest concerns at Primark is talent recruitment. And I think you were observing more generally that companies need to rethink the relationship they have with the colleagues that work for them. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the top of my list, because that's a that's a zero-sum game. There are talented and hardworking and nice people, but not everyone is like that. And so if you think about the culture that you want to build in an organization, and in particular building a customer function or marketing function that is fit to support and add value to the growth that Primark has our sights on, the people in the team are going to be the most critical thing. So I think the question was asked from Campaign, biggest concern, but it really is something that I would just say is at the top of my to-do list, is to make sure that I'm always focusing on having the absolute best team, because that's an unbeatable competitive advantage.
But I mean, because I think you've always done that brilliantly. You've always been a magnet for talent. And because you yourself, I think you've worked in 4 countries, haven't you? US, UK, Portugal, and now Ireland. And you've got passports for 3 of them. I mean, the only missing one is the Portuguese one. But, attracting people to work for a Dublin-based company that's a multinational, has that been straightforward?
We have, because the business was founded in in Dublin. It's not a tax dodge. It's very proudly an Irish business, and yet it's also a very small country. You've spent time working there, and so there's a real clear realization that the talent pool needs to be broader than just the Dublin talent pool. And so we're a global business across 17 countries. We have colleagues in central roles who are located physically in a lot of different locations. But getting to Dublin and being able to experience the real, true heart of the business is important.
Yeah.
So you don't really, I don't feel that I need to have my entire team live in Dublin, but they need to be interested in going there.
Yeah, and it is obviously I couldn't possibly comment on whether I was in Dublin for a company to avoid tax. That would be.
I didn't say that, David. Never.
No, there are obviously at the moment. It's a fairly heated debate. I was expecting in the UK budget for there to be a bit more action around the companies that make an awful lot of profit in the UK but pay next to no tax. And some of them are domiciled in Dublin, of course. But the pride in an Irish business is quite something to behold.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So does your world go green on March the 17th, where in all 17 countries, do you drive Irish pride?
No, I don't think so, actually. It's absolutely a holiday. It is celebrated. I think it's celebrated with more gusto in some of our US cities, in fact. Yeah.
But I mean, I do think it's a great story, that Irish multinational. And I was talking to a good friend of ours yesterday about, I don't think I've ever been to a city in the world that hasn't got an Irish pub.
Oh, that's so true. Exactly.
Yeah. And the pride of the Irish wherever they go. So maybe there's a thought for you. Now, can I touch on a couple of broader industry issues? One is, as you know, the obsession about the death of the CMO, and is the CMO really important anymore? And you're the chief customer officer. You're not called the chief marketing officer. Yeah. But of course, your role fully encompasses marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and why the difference in title? Was that carefully thought through?
Yeah. Yes. And I think that there are a couple of reasons from my perspective. One is it would be difficult to create a chief marketing officer for a business that has been very vocal for over 50 years that they don't spend money on marketing. So I think the optics would have been difficult.
Yeah.
Now, the real reason is that in particular in retail, there are three legs to the retail stool, and they're product, channel, and customer. And Primark has been as successful as it has been, really focusing on two of those legs.
Yeah.
And so it was really thinking about the potential of bringing customer focus, customer understanding, and externally marketing to customers to really amplify the success of incredible retail discipline and amazing products.
And 2 years in, what's the next 2-3 years look like? What do you? Because it seems to me you've done a brilliant job on getting the brand in shape and we got the growth strategy in shape. So what next?
Yeah, so we're working through a full revamp of the customer value proposition that we will be bringing to market in the spring. I talked about sort of dipping our toe into external marketing in Germany and the US. So we need to further prove those models so we can then fill in the different flavors of brand challenges that lie in between.
Yeah.
We've just finished our Primark 2030 strategy, and there's a laundry list there. We have our very first brand tracker that we had the first data from that came in March. I've appointed the Primark's first head of brand who started 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So all of the codification of the brand, getting the brand architecture in shape, resetting all of the communication tools is a lot of pick and shovel work, but that's going to be coming over the next 2 years also.
And I noticed that that a bit like that, maybe there should be people fretting about why HR isn't called HR anymore, but you're working with, I think they're now branded people and culture. So you and I always used to talk about building the brand inside out. How important are colleagues in advocating for Primark, and how do you focus on them?
Completely. I mean, you don't get me started on this. It is so important, and especially because we started talking about Primark being a bricks and mortar business. And so there are 80,000 colleagues, over 80,000 colleagues who are brand ambassadors and are a really important part of that experience that we want customers to have when they come into a Primark. And so if they don't not only understand what the Primark brand stands for, but recognize their role in it, then it doesn't matter what we do in advertising and marketing and all of the other things that we think are our specialty and our expertise. It really starts and almost ends with them.
Yeah, 80,000 brand advocates is a great place to start.
Exactly.
And just on the subject of marketing, as you know, I've been on tour with the Ritbot, and one of the questions,
I love that.
one of the questions that we asked the Ritbot is that a lot of people say that marketing's lost its luster and it's not a career that people are choosing to have anymore. I mean, if you were selling marketing to incomers, what would you say to that? Do you think this has lost its luster? Do you think we can attract great talent?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say, so we're talking about people who have yet to start their career.
Yeah.
So I would say, look at the people, your parents' generation, your parents' age, and ask yourself which of them enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
odds are it's not going to be a long list of things that might sound attractive when you look purely at the financial equation.
That is a fantastic answer. I love that. Yeah, because it's true. I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, the Ripbot, for what it's worth, was talking about, unfortunately, it's become a kind of war of money at point of entry, and you can get more money
Yeah.
if you join the tech companies or, these days, even lawyers. I mean, the graduate entry programs for legal companies are astonishing. I think 5 times more than you'd get in a marketing graduate program. But it's not
Yeah,
just
totally.
about money.
No, I know. And I mean, my friends, acquaintances of many generations are littered with people who thought they wanted to be lawyers, got the JD, went and did it for a year or 2 years, and left after the experience of what it requires. Just think about that exchange. In order to get that out, you're going to put something in and
Yeah,
make sure that you're really comfortable with what that is.
exactly. But the fact that I think is true, if I look sideways, most of the people I know that come from the world we've worked in have had a very enjoyable, colourful life that may or may have not been well rewarded, but it's been fun. I think
Exactly.
that's a great
Exactly.
place to be. All right, and I always like to kind of end these by asking, what one thing do you think CMOs should have at the top of their agenda? What should they be focusing on at the moment?
I'm going to repeat myself because I do feel really passionate about this, and I think it's talent, but I do think that it's talent inside and outside. So it's not just your team, but it is really thinking hard about all of the agencies and any other partners that you work with, and to make sure that you really understand what motivates them, and then it's our job as leaders to provide that.
That is fabulous. And this business depends on great people. And Michelle, you are one of the greatest. Thank you so much for spending time talking to me today. And I know everybody around our world will really enjoy this. And we also delighted that you're part of the WFA, on the WFA Council. So thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, David. Right back at you. I'll see you soon.
Take care. Another fantastic conversation, and the Primark story is one worth watching, particularly with Michelle at the helm. I referenced in that chat the joy I've had taking the Ritbot on tour. And actually, what we're going to be doing at the beginning of December is recording a Better Marketing podcast where my 2 guests will be the Ritbot and Mark Ritson himself. So prepare your swear boxes. We'll have a great time. Take the best of care.